Okay, welcome back to the second series of playthroughs with the flying colors. This is the engagement between the Leander, right here, and the Généreux up here. Shortly after the Battle of the Nile, the Leander was heading back to England and was intercepted by the Généreux and ultimately captured historically. And we're playing this through on its anniversary here for the 18th of August and seeing if we can either repeat history or we can change history. And so far, just to recap on from the first video, we're kind of a little bit of ahead of history here. We're kind of paralleling with a chance of changing history. As we can see here, we've got the Leander with the wind, reaching with the wind, about to potentially cross the Généreux's bow right here. If they can get the initiative and hold it, they can definitely cross over here. But the Généreux, if they get the initiative, they will be able to take a raking shot at the Leander, potentially devastating it at a range of 2 hexes. That's it's pretty close. That's a couple hundred yards separating the two on a rake line. It could be fairly devastating for the Leander. So this is kind of a critical point. May be the critical point in the game, may not be, but definitely a critical point in the play here. So let's get to it. See what happens. As I said, the initiative is going to determine it. So let's bring up the initiative cards and see what happens. So the Leander has the wind, so the French will actually be picking the first initiative card. So let's see what this looks like here. So, first off, we've got to do a wind change. So let's do that first. We're checking for the wind change. There's no change. So it's easy. So both have the wind. British have the audacity. Oh, they do have, I misspoke there. Because the French actually have the wind. They're reaching with the wind there as well. But British have the audacity, so they will have the French pick first. So the French picks an initiative of 9, which is good. Trying to get the initiative on there so that they could potentially fire on them. They've also got a straight ahead, which they'll do for the most part, but they've also got a -2 modifier on the change, so they could change to, a starboard or a port maneuver there as well. They don't have any firing bonus. The wearing is only 1, so that's good. Their speed is actually increased by 1 or decreased by 1, depending upon what they want to do. And the command really doesn't come into bearing, and at the moment tacking doesn't come into play. So that's a pretty good card for them to play. Now let's see what the British play. But first they are going to, that's not the right play. Let's continue on here. And there's the French. Sorry, there's the British, sorry. There we go. So the British plays a 5. They'll get a +1 to speed, which can help them as well. Wearing is going to be 1. Firing is going to be -2, which is a little bit of a nuisance. But still, if they get a good rake, they're going to go for the rigging and try to knock it out. Remember, they're trying to knock them down so that they can run away eventually. And they'll be going straight across here as well. So let's continue on from there. But the French have played an event card. Move over here so you can see what that is. And the event is miscommunication, which means, and they're going to play it on the British. And that's going to be play immediately after the command termination phase on the in-command ship that is not adjacent to an enemy vessel, which this isn't. Place the ship into out of command status. Doing so does not break a defined formation. Okay, we don't have any formations here, but he is going to go out of command. We'll put the out of command marker on him like that, which That hurts. That hurts the British because they were going to have the initiative. They had a 5 to their 9, so they were going to be able to cross. But now with them out of command, automatically they lose their initiative, and it defaults over to the French for that. Plus, it has some pretty severe bonuses. There is a card for that. Unfortunately, it's not in the vassal module here to actually show the effects on here, but it's some pretty severe effects. They can only go straight. They'll get a -3 if they try to turn. They've got a -2 with their firing, and basically they're out of command. So that is going to upset the apple cart for the British, and the French are actually going to take the first turn. So that means they're going to try for a rake here, pretty sure. So yeah, so they're going to back sail 1. So they're going to just kind of sit there, and then they're going to fire on the Leander, and they're going to do their rake check, see first if they get a rake. They do, so they successfully have a rake. But and then checking their firepower here, they're going to have a 3 with a range of 2, makes it 9 firepower, +1 makes 11 firepower coming at the British. And they're, after thinking about it, they're going to actually fire at the rigging because they've already damaged the rigging fairly well here. You can see here the rigging is down with 2 hits. The hull's only got 1 hit. French are better because they are firing into the wind, so that's going to give them some bonuses there as well. So they're going to go for the rigging continue. We may get a hull hit. If we do, that will get multiplied by 1.5. But really, the rigging is the bigger thing. And there's no events being played. They roll a 3. +2 is 5, so that's 3 rigging hits. So right there, that knocked them out of the knocked 1 speed off of them on there. So they go from a 5 to a 4 right there. And now the Leander's moving forward. They're gonna pivot. Now I did do a roll. I don't know why it came out here, but they did make the roll, so they can change and be able to wear to the others, to do a wearing here. So there we go. I'm just trying to get it maneuvered around, and there we are. So what they actually do is they weared to port so that they came in here, and then they weared again so that they got into line with the British on their final move. So now the British, it's going to be the British turn here, and they only have 4 points. As I said, they're -1 for the loss of sail. So first off, they're going to move forward. Now the French have actually maneuvered themselves so they can get their unfired broadside to be able to fire, and they're going to do a defensive fire at the Leander at a range of 2. So this could be pretty devastating as well, because this is going to be 9 firepower plus initial firepower, carronade, and the white shade makes it 13. They're going to go for rigging again, so it's going to be +2, and they roll a 4. 4 + 2 is 6, makes it 4 more rigging hits, so that brings them down to another speed. So that drops them down to a 3 in terms of their speed now. So they're going to be in pretty tough shape. So now their speed drops to a 2 on here. They've already used one of their movements, so they've only got 1 left. So they're going to move forward 1, and now they're going to fire their port side, and now they'll have an initial broadside there as well. So they're going to be a range of 2, 7 firepower, -1 for the black, +1 for the audacity, plus carronade, and +3 gives them a +3 to make them 10. That should be 10 firepower. There we go, and I rolled it prematurely there. Apologize for that. So they're going to be 10 firepower plus, and they're firing at the hull, +1 for the British, +1 with the wind, and -3 for being out of command. So that gives them a net total of -1 when they're firing here. And I picked the hull. I could have gone for the rigging, but it's going to be negative modifiers, and I wanted to try to get as much modifiers as possible. I know it's only going to be hitting the hull, but at this point the British have to do anything to get high hits. So their roll was 6, -1 gives them 5, which is 2 hull and a rigging. So they did get 1 rigging hit there as well. And now the Généreux is at a rigging 5, which is still a -1, so they're close to losing another speed, so they could be reduced there as well, which would be good for the Leander in terms of escaping. So that's the end of the turn. That's the end of turn 3. Moving on to turn 4. A little bit of tough situation here. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Where now it's a face-off with broadsides here, and of course the Généreux is a 3, which the Leander is a 4 with a black modifier. So they're at a severe firepower disadvantage. So they've got to look to try to run here if possible. But let's see how this goes. So first off, we're doing a wind check. There's no change in wind. So now with the initiative, both have the wind, but again, the audacity goes to the British. So the French pick the initiative first, and they are going to choose. There we go. They choose 23, high number. The Généreux, feeling that they have a little bit more control now of the situation, want to try to maneuver back and stay close to the Leander to keep firing at them to whittle down their rigging, because they're already up to 9. There's only 6 more, and they'll be dismasted on there as well. So they're going to try to maneuver over. Plus, they have a firing bonus of +1. Speed is negligible here. Wearing is just a 1, so that's good for them. So that's good, but they may give up the initiative for that. And in this case, it may not be too bad for them. So now let's see what the British come forward with. There we go. They come forward with a 20. Okay, so they will get the initiative unless a card is played, but seeing as the miscommunications was already played already, most likely they're going to retain it. This will allow the Leander to continue moving forward at least. Go to port and maybe to try to cross them, but it's going to be kind of tricky because they've lost the speed. They've lost a lot of speed. They're down to just 2 movement points right now, so they won't pick up any for the card. They will pick up some firepower, so they may end up just firing at them, moving, and potentially rolling to see if they can do a starboard turn, but I'm not sure about that. They may need to stay with the wind given their low speed at this point. So let's see what they do. They get the first play. So first off, they play an event, which is actually a good event to play before they move, and that's a rigging. Let me move this over so you can see this a little bit more. There we go. Is a rigging repair, which allows the ship to repair up to 3 rigging hits, which would be highly useful for them if they could, to give them some speed back before they maneuver. So let's see what they roll. Now there is a +2 DRM because they're within 5 hexes of the enemy. Roll 4 + 2 is 6. Gives them just 1 rigging hit repair, but we're going to see here when we look at this, that's actually good because that actually brought them up a speed notch, or 1 MP back. So they've now got 3 MP rather than 2. So that's slightly useful. So now they got to figure out what to do with it, and I think the first thing is just move forward. All right. But when they do that, the Généreux is going to defensive fire, which is not great for the Leander. So firepower on this, range of 2. It's going to be 9 plus 1 plus 1. It's going to be an 11 firepower. They're going to fire at the rigging, of course. Now the Généreux has the +1, so they're going to have a +3 DRM. That rigging hit, I think, is going to disappear. They roll a 0 +3. Gives them. Oh, I thought that came up with. It was 3 rigging hits. I thought that came up there with 3 rigging hits, but I guess not. So if we looked at the chart here real quick, I'll just show you here. Back here, results. So he was on the 11 and rolled a 0 +3, so there's 3 rigging hits right there. So that took off the rigging that they just repaired, brought them back down to 2. They've already done 1, so they've only got one left. But I think, yeah, they're going to fire back here at this point with a firepower of 8. You can see the calculations there. And they're going to fire at the hull again to get as much bonus as possible. They do have a card, and there's no event played, so it's going to be +3. Unfortunately, they didn't have any. These are the, I was mentioning in the other video, these are the things they could do for loading. Unfortunately, they didn't have any on here. So they're just going to do a +3. Roll a 6. Ooh, that's good. With a +3, that's going to make 9. So that's going to be 3 hull hits on the Généreux. So another thing is they may be able to whittle them down. If they keep hitting them in the hull, they may be able to whittle them down, because now the Généreux is at 5 hull hits. One more hull hit and they lose a rate, which will mean that they're now at the same rate as the Leander. So that could help out in a broadside by broadside firing, but we'll have to see how it goes here. So 1 movement point left, and they just move forward like that. And yeah, no, they're not going to pivot. I don't know why I pivoted them. Oh yeah, they wanted to pivot that way to stay with wind and try to cross them. They did roll here. It didn't show up here for some reason, and they were successful at making the maneuver. Or actually, no, they didn't have to roll. I'm sorry, they didn't have to roll, because they could either go forward or go to the port side, and that's what they did on here. So now the Généreux has 4 movement points. So they move 1, 2, 3, and then they backsail for 4. So they're right on the rake line for the next turn. If they get the initiative, they'll be able to take another raking shot across the Leander. Now I could have had them just stay that way and continue to pound at them, but the Leander has got to take as much advantage as possible, with them to try to gain, gain a victory. So, anyways, we're up to turn 5. With this, we're going to do a wind check. No wind change. So now the Généreux has wind over the Leander, because they're in a 5 versus a 4. Right? So now the Leander is actually going to pick first for the initiative, and they pick an 11, which is kind of middle of the road, but hopefully that gives them initiative, and they may be able to do something there. Now remember, they don't have a lot of maneuvering here, because they're going to be -3, so they're going to have 1 movement point. But they do have a speed, which is a +1 as well, so that gives them 2 movement points on there. Now wearing is going to be 2, and firing is going to be -1, so that's going to be a little bit tricky for them. Now let's see what the French draw. And they draw a higher one, 22, but it gives them capability of moving forward and turning to port if they choose, and they have a negative modifier to change direction. And when they change direction, I don't know if I mentioned this before, they need to roll a 4 or less, modified by whatever's on here, for them to be able to change their maneuver over here. So with that, the Leander is going to get the initiative, I believe, and they're going to move forward 1. All right. And yeah, they move forward 1. Now the Généreux is going to defensive fire here at this point. Be foolish not to. And they potentially will get a rake. There's the rake check, and they do get a rake. So this is going to be 14 firepower. They're still firing at the rigging, +1, +2, +3 for the card, so it's +3. Again, this could be devastating. Oh, when it is, it's 9. 6 + 3 is 9. It's 5 rigging hits and a hull. Ooh, that is, yep, that's going to do them in because they're already at 11. So they're going to get 5, and they are now dismasted, which is pretty devastating for the Leander. Pretty much leaves them dead in the water and subject to capture here. And there's the hull hit there as well. Leander's going to try a shot back, but it's going to be a partial broadside coming back here, so we'll see what happens. So it's going to be a 6 firepower. And then they play an event card, which is going to disregard the initiative effects for them. So they're going to disregard the -1. And so they'll get a +2 on their firing. So it's going to be a 6 firepower with a +2. They roll a 0, which is going to be a hull hit. So really didn't do much damage to the Généreux. They did, well, the hull hit does, yeah, looking at this here, the hull hit does actually reduce them in terms of their rate, but I think it might be too late because they've been dismasted. The Généreux has 4. They're going to back sail, and now they're going to turn, and they're going to try to grapple. If they grapple, then we'll go into a melee, and they'll capture them. Here's the grapple attempt with a -1 for the difference between the marine numbers there. They roll an 8. Now to grapple, looking at the grappling table here, you can see I need a 0 to 4 to grapple. Marine difference is the +1 that I added. Nothing struck, nothing fouled. They roll an 8 with a -1, makes 7, so they did not grapple. So now I think I moved the ships just so that they, yeah, so they now are in a little better position, gives me a little bit more room to maneuver. The Généreux continues their movement and moves off over here, like so. All that's good. They don't have to roll for that because that was a port turn before they did the starboard turn, and then went back sail. Leander is going to strike check. They roll a 4. All right, and they actually strike at that point. So with them struck, it's essentially they've been captured at that point because now the Généreux can send over boarding parties and take possession of the Leander and go from there. So this kind of followed the historical battle itself. Reading about this, the Leander was dismasted eventually, and the French won and took the Leander into tow, bringing them into port and refitting it later on. Although the Leander really didn't sail too much after that before being recaptured by the Turks and the Russians in a raid, and then eventually turned back over to the British. So that kind of has an interesting sub-history that goes along with it there. But for our scenario, we kind of followed the same pattern, dismasted and a French win to cap it off. So I think it's a good little scenario. I like these little ones. You can see how quickly this played. I did it in 2 sessions. roughly about an hour in total time that I was here describing it to you, as well as about an hour to actually play it when I did it there. So that's why I say it's a good one for evening play, or just when you need a quick bit of time to play. And it can be played solo. These cards are, people say cards make things harder for solo because you got to look at the cards and you know what the other hands are going to be and so forth. But I think you can apply a few little nuances, tricks, whatever you want to call them, to help. In my case, I had, for the picking of the initiatives, I basically said, whoever has the wind plus the audacity is going to be the one who chooses these, or who does, I should say, doesn't have the wind or has a lower audacity, is going to choose the first card. So that gives a little bit of a, advantage to the person having the wind, okay, but not that much, because I was really concentrating on the cards that they had, and they didn't have too many. Like I said, I didn't show the card hands on here. I can quickly show, only because the way that this is set up right now with the vassal module, it makes it tricky to jump back and forth here without a lot of keystrokes and such. So what I did is just showed you the results of them. But the British had 4 cards, 3 plus 1 for their audacity, and the French had 3 cards. And you can see these are the remaining British cards over here. And you've got to concentrate and read what the events are, read what the initiatives are. And you're really concentrating on them to try to remember what the other side had. It's hard. It really is hard. It makes you forget. So for me, with my memory and everything of this, I couldn't remember what the French had versus what the British had when I was checking for them. Now, when I was playing, and particularly the events, what I would do is stop before the movement and just double check the cards to see if there was any events that would be pertinent for what they were doing on both sides, and play them accordingly. With this, like you saw with the initiative event, the miscommunications event, that one, I saw, and that would be a good one to play by the French to steal essentially the initiative and be able to do the first shot on the Leander. So again, a little bit of just thought forward with this, but at the same time, particularly checking certain points for this. So before movement, before firing, checking for different cards that may be played and be appropriate within there. So I think it can be soloed. Again, it's not a solo. There's not a solo bot for this or any type of thing that's going to make it simple and easy for you. It is a case of just you putting in some simple procedural restrictions on yourself that will allow you to have a fun game like this. Now, ultimately, if you do have a chance to play this against somebody, against another player, it is really fun. I have played this a number of times against a live opponent, and had a really good time, because you don't know what they're going to play. You don't know what these events are going to be on there. You really got to think about your initiative effects and how you want to lay out. And it really gives a good flavor to the small ship scenarios like this. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoyed this little scenario. I was really hoping for the Leander to actually win this, and kind of saw some opportunity to have it there. It was a little bit against the odds, but I thought they might do it. So I'm really impressed with this and had fun with it as well. So if you did too, please let me know. Just hit the like button and leave a comment. Let me know how you liked it, and hopefully I'll do some more here a little bit later on. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.